Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more podcast of the Athletic School. Today, our guest speaker is Matt Mountford. He's a former professional soccer player and head coach, and now he's the CEO of Pacesetter Soccer Club in Ohio. Matt, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Just to begin with, I want to go a little bit over your background and was your dream to become a professional soccer player and maybe one day become a CEO? Is it something that you thought about it before?
The second part, no. The CEO part, no.
Right.
Professional soccer, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like yourself, probably. Like we grow up, it's a different culture and environment. So
Right,
you live
right.
and breathe
Uh-huh.
soccer. You know, that's the religion is soccer.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. The dream was to become a professional player. Um, Probably not the route that I went down in the end
Mm-hmm.
to get there, but yeah, I wouldn't change a thing, honestly. And it
Mm-hmm.
was always the goal to just say, well, yeah, I play 1 minute of professional soccer, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's a
Uh,
blessing for sure.
right. And did you play in Canada
Yeah,
and also in UK?
yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously UK is a bit different. So came through, different teams and stuff
Right.
like that in the UK. And the standard is obviously really, really high. Same
Mm-hmm.
in Brazil,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
same thing.
Yeah.
We're out on the street and things like
Yeah.
that.
That's the
So
only thing we do.
yeah,
So
that's it.
yeah.
And so I came through obviously different academies and things. And then after I got released and kind of injured and things like that, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a setback, I actually went to college in the UK. So we
Okay.
leave high school when we're 16 and
Uh huh.
go to college for 2 years. And I did that, and then I started playing for the college again,
Okay.
and that's when I started to kind of fall back in love with the game.
Mm-hmm.
So we went, we played all over the country against different colleges. A
Mm-hmm.
great experience. And then obviously I went to Canada and obviously played pro over there in the league.
Mm-hmm. And how is the soccer in Canada?
Good,
Good.
really,
Yeah.
very good. Yeah, I would say it's no surprise to see them doing so well as a
Mm-hmm.
nation now.
Right.
Some of those players that were coming through as young kids,
Mm-hmm.
coming in the academies there, you could already see the potential for the whole
Mm-hmm.
country, especially at like Vancouver, Toronto,
Right. Right.
big clubs like that. Montreal, when they got the impact in the MLS, that was big.
Mm-hmm.
We played against Montreal, Toronto, we played
Mm-hmm.
against all of
Yeah.
them. So that was a great experience. But yeah, the level was really good.
Mm-hmm.
The pace of the game,
Mm-hmm.
the speed of the game was a lot faster than it was in the UK.
Oh, really?
And it was a bit more technical. So even when I was playing now, 15, 16 years ago,
Yeah.
I'm old now. It was a bit more direct and physical.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, I actually think that I would be a better player now
Yeah.
for the current
Yeah.
generation.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy
What
how.
about you?
Yeah. No. I mean, the same thing. Like in Brazil, it's we care a lot about the technique. Like how you pass. Like for me as a keeper, like can you hold the ball? And not just keep giving rebounds. And here it's more like about the like just being strong, and going for the ball and tackle and winning every ball you can. But I mean, it's crazy to see how different it is in different countries, and I think there's a little bit of difference between Canada and US as well. Of course, I didn't play in a big level in the US yet, but I mean, just you saying that about Canada, it's interesting to see the differences. So I mean, here in the athletic school, we love to talk with people like you, and then kind of figure out like how their mindset works. And like from you, looking back to your career, what did it take you to become a professional soccer player and to get here today as a CEO at Pace Center? Have a important role here. It was lucky. Did you get lucky, or was it hard work? Like, and I want to go over so many other things because I remember in the parenting meeting that we had, you talk about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, which is a book called Mindset,
Yeah.
which I loved, and I always talk about that one. And it surprised me a little bit when you mentioned that. So, what did it take you to get here today, to become a professional soccer player, head coach, and then be here today?
Oh, tremendous amounts of hard work,
Right. Yeah.
relentless hours. You know, I mean, from when I started, I was 3 years old when I first remember kicking a soccer ball.
Mm-hmm.
I was younger than that. I was a lot younger than that, but obviously I don't remember.
Right.
From there, I just remember, you know, my childhood was very much centered around soccer, as I'm sure you were saying.
Yeah.
Because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to explain to people that don't really understand that. But I think even here in the US, I think that the kids don't have a childhood now because of the youth soccer demands and stuff like that. So it's up to us to try and provide that
right.
in a more childlike way, especially in those young ages.
Right.
You know, it's crucial. And so for me, my journey, it's there's no straight line. It's never linear, right? I was listening to a podcast actually, the High Performance podcast, and it was with the academy manager at Manchester United, a guy called Nick Cox, who was unbelievable. Highly recommend everybody check it out. And he talked about a non-linear journey, and that's exactly it. It's never going to be a straight line.
Yeah.
It's always going to be bumps, and I've had so many. I played professionally in Canada, but in England, released all this good, you know, all that.
Yeah.
We say good stuff, but it was difficult at the time. Fell out of love with the game, you know, because of my experiences in it. At that level, and then it took me going to a different continent to find the passion again. Yeah. And honestly, I owe a lot to the head coach and the coaching staff and the team at Kingston FC, because without them, I probably I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, I'm lucky enough to still call them friends now, which is amazing. And have that resource there. But yeah, I would say sacrifice. Willing to sacrifice, you know, everything. Like, I left behind my entire family and everything that I've ever known to go and play in Canada. And I had some family in Canada, but I was still not like close. Right. In terms of where they were, but I was also never too far away from them either. So I knew that if I needed something, or they would be right there. Yeah. So that was amazing. So the support system is the most important thing ever. But yeah, for me, like I keep saying, sacrifice, hard work, and I think honestly passion. I think passion and finding something that I love doing. You know, everything was worth it, and it was that kind of determination. Like, this is the life that I want. Yeah. This is what I want to do or want to be doing. How can I do it for as long as possible? You know, and then putting in the work. There's no secret ingredient.
So you mentioned that you had some injuries, and of course leaving your family behind is not easy. Do you think it was a passion that just kept you going, or it's also a certain, like, a discipline, or I don't know, some type of commitment that you like? That's what I wanted to do, and that's what I'm gonna do, even though you had injuries and everything. Like, what was going through in your mind when you were released back then, and when you got an injury? Like, what made you come back?
Yeah, I think honestly the passion.
Okay.
And in terms of, you know, that's what I love doing. Okay. So I love doing it. Therefore, it's not work. Yeah. I want to do it for as long as possible. Right. You know, I'm sure you're the same.
You're right. Yes.
You know, even now.
Yeah. Because if it wasn't passion, I don't think I would be doing it still. But yeah.
For sure. It's probably why you transition into coaching as well as playing, right? Like, to stay connected with the game. Right. And so, you know, that overall passion, for sure. Yeah. And the desire just to try and kind of prove that it could be done. You know, there was a lot of doubts. I've always had challenges in terms of whether it be, you know, people saying, oh, you can't do this, or, you know, because I've always been very kind of, well, now you would call it individuality, but again, when we were growing up, it's not, is it? It's like, well, why are you different? Right. And so in terms of the mindset, like, I always wanted to leave home. Yeah. From 10 years old. Yeah. You know, and I saw soccer as my way to do that. You know, potentially if I put in the work, and it wasn't because, you know, my home life was bad. I had the best parents. I'm very, very, very fortunate. But we don't come from, you know, a lot of affluence or anything like that. And so I knew that if I wanted a better life situation for myself, then I was going to have to try and, force that, to be honest, and bang down doors, to open, and then do things that I could stay in that kind of realm, and kind of on that path of continued, I guess, growth would be. But it was always kind of, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to do it, and then, what else can I do to make sure that happens? Because we can all want it and we can all try and do it, but it doesn't. It didn't happen for me. Like, I'm 29 years old now. I theoretically could still be playing.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not. So, but again, that non-linear journey, I think being open-minded is, again, like, I'm embodiment of that. So what I say is because of my experiences, as well as the research, as well as, other coaching experiences, as well as, but it's your lived experiences, it's your journey, and that's something that I've always had, is that open mindset. Like, I've always been very open-minded about everything. Like, I've wanted to travel the world, I've wanted to experience and embrace new cultures, I've wanted to learn different languages, to interact with my teammates in Canada. There was only 3 Canadians on the roster. Right. We had a couple of Brazilians. One of my best friends today is a Brazilian guy. Love him. He didn't speak any English when he came over. So we learned some Portuguese to communicate, and then we would teach him English. And I mean, things like that. Like, we had, the boys from Africa that couldn't really speak English. So again, they're speaking French, and different dialects in French as well. So you had the Montreal stuff, and then you had, the Kenyan and the Congo and things like Senegal. And so, just being open-minded, I think is crucial for any kind of successful journey that you want to go on. You can't be fixed in, this is the only way that this is going to happen. No. This is what I want, but I'm completely flexible and open to how I get there.
So there's Ray Dalio, which is an investor here in US, and he mentions, like, if you are open-minded, so if you're open-minded and you can reflect on the things that you go through, that equals to progression, which is equals to growth, basically. So that's awesome, and it works. It works. And another thing you were mentioning about non-linear path, there's a book called The Dip, which is, the guy talks about when you should give up and when you should keep going, stuff like that. And he mentions that, like, everyone that succeeds, they go through a dip that goes down, like, badly, and then they go up. So, and in order to succeed, you need to be willing to go through the deep first, because if you're not willing to go through the deep, you shouldn't even start, basically. Because it's just like you said, like, there's no only just one way, and many different things happens in the path, and you gotta be open-minded, you gotta learn from those things, and you change your mind a lot, you change your mindset a lot. And again, if you're not open-minded, that becomes hard for you to grow, as in our case, as a soccer player, but also as a person. And I don't think you would be here today at Pacesetter if you were an open mind back then, right? So yeah. What are some of the lessons that you bring to your job nowadays? Lessons that you learn as a player that you bring to your job nowadays?
So many. Punctual, being on time.
Okay.
Time management, organizational skills, in terms of planning, so different periodization stuff, and that can be periodization, just it means, but basically it just means planning out your week. It means planning out your month, planning out your year, whatever that is for each individual. But it's little steps. It's just the small, insignificant details that when you're a player you think, why are we doing this? What's this for? This is not. And then you realize when you go into a real working environment that wow, they prepare you so well, just by the standards that they hold you to account on. It sets you up so much. It's the main reason why I love being in the position that I'm in, and why I accepted the position is because, I want to elicit that change, because I feel like it can be taught. I feel like it can be learned. And we have a duty of care as coaches, and as guides to these young people to set them up to succeed.
Right.
I don't think across the country we're doing a good job of it, and I think in society we're not doing a good job of it. And so we have a moral obligation as people that care about young people and want to see them succeed, to put the foundations in that they can. Not just say, oh well, little Johnny is not doing it here. Well, why?
Right.
Like, what are we doing about that to address that? And that's where ultimately why my passion is, as you can see, speaking about it. But that's why I just feel like we have a real obligation to make sure that we transfer the skills that we learn through the game as players at all levels.
Right.
To then back down when we go into the coaching element as well. We have a duty to pay it forward and transfer that knowledge. And that could be as simple as holding the door open for somebody else.
Yeah.
That could be, hello, good morning, how are you? Hey, thanks for training tonight, coach. Great job.
Yeah.
I mean, as a coach, would you like that if a player said that to you?
Yeah, of course.
And that's where we distinguish a lot between player and person, and I always go person and player. So I don't care if you're going to win me 50 championships in the youth soccer level if you're not the right person and you don't have good morals, that you don't have friends because you're quite intimidating and you're trying to impose yourself. No, like, we've got a duty as coaches and as educators to try and instill those beliefs and those kind of values into each individual that we come into contact with.
Yeah. No, and I would like to go a little deeper on that, because I feel like some people, of course, winning is extremely important. Everyone wants to win, and I think, what we do if we don't want to win, if we're not playing to win, right? But where do you think we draw the line to say, like, okay, let me do whatever it takes, but maybe cheating, it's not a good thing to do in order for me to win. Or you see so many even players, successful players, in a way that they are not really good people for our society. Maybe they're good for the team, they can score goals, but they have problems at home and stuff like that. So where do you think we can draw the line that, okay, we gotta do everything it takes to win? Like, what is your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of it is learned and conditioned behaviour from a younger age, and so when people are acting out or when they're not, there's always a why. So as a coach, especially kind of in the youth realm, we have, like I keep saying, a duty of care and a moral obligation to get to the root of why. That doesn't mean kind of infringe or cross lines. No, not at all. But if I'm observing and then I know and I see a change in behaviour, and I know the kid and I see a change in behaviour, well then why? And then you go to the causes of why that could be, and then you just kind of feel around a little bit in terms of, ask the right questions, make sure that the support system is there, so always be in dialogue with the parents. There's no parent in the world, I'm a father myself, there's no parent in the world that doesn't want the best for their child.
Right.
And I think as, we bridge that gap, there seems to be so much division, whereas we should just be united. So in answer to your question, in terms of what I personally would do, or how could we draw the line, it's your moral compass, it's your values.
Right.
What is important to you, and as a coach and as a leader, what is important to you, and then you live and die by that, because I'm only as good as my word. Right. Definitely. And then my actions to back up that. So if I say to you, okay, so I want to create this really positive culture where I want you to feel safe, secure, supported, right, in whatever you do. Those are the three non-negotiables for me that I want in my environment for all of my players to feel like, or people to feel like.
Yeah.
Right. So Okay, well, what does that mean then? So how am I going to elicit that kind of culture?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take steps. So if I see something that is out of line with those three things, so if I see another kid yelling at someone, hey, whoa, 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 stop. You two, come over here. Rest of you carry on. You two, come over here. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just get on their level straight. Well, what's going on?
Right.
Okay, great. Well, is that really how we want to be speaking to each other, though? Well, he said this, they did this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but is that really how we're going to talk to another human being?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that starts as young as 8,
Yeah.
I would say 6, but that's just my opinion. But I think the younger you start those conversations about kindness costs nothing,
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, respect, about, you know, learning to lose in terms of, hey, it's okay to lose as long as you gave your best effort.
Right.
Could you do any more? Yeah, okay, well, take that into the next game. Could you do any more? No, we still lost. Okay, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Take that into the next game as well. You know, and we need to get out of this mentality of losing and winning. Like, we never lose, we only learn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that winning is a false indicator for a lot of people, a lot of teams, especially in sports.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of coaches that, you know, they kind of get high off their own supply a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because, oh, well, look at what I've won. Yeah, but what did the kids learn?
Yeah.
How did they grow as people to
Right.
then translate that soccer skill into a life skill?
Yeah.
You know, because in our environment, we're not developing, you know, ultimately we're not going to develop, you know, professional players on every single player on every single team.
Yeah.
You know, the stats are there for themselves. I mean, 7% of participants in youth sports are fortunate enough to get collegiate scholarships across any divisions, across any collegiate level.
Right.
And so, okay, what are we doing then? We're developing the people because we want them to go out into any vocation and have the tools to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, those tools are exactly the same on the field as they are off it in terms of your character and personality.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Awesome. And so my question for you is like, you gave so many good advices for me personally how to do that as a coach, but how can you do that from here, from you know from above a little bit, from being an executive director, how because I mean I've seen you on the pitch there many times, but you're not necessarily coaching anymore. You're more just like managing. So how do you pass that to the coaches that you have now? How do you how can you translate that to them so they can translate that to their players?
Great question. It's something that is obviously a work in progress every
Right.
day. For a start, I don't think there's a particular right or wrong answer. Just because I might give you an answer now, it doesn't mean that another person doing it a different way is wrong. I don't
Right,
think
right.
there's a, but I do think that in terms of myself, I think leading by example in terms of, so you'll see me on the practice field, but you'll also see me running sessions as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a case of the learning for the coaches there is not because I'm better, because I might show them a little bit
Mm-hmm.
that, oh, yeah, that makes sense, because now you're being the teacher.
Yeah.
So you're not teaching, you're actually the teacher of
Yeah.
the coaches, because you want that certain, you know, like I have a vision of what we want to be and how to get there and filtering it down. It's leading by example. So
Yeah.
going out there, proving to you guys like, hey, listen, I'm not going to just sit in my office in my ivory tower here and,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
kind of look down and, oh yeah, no, not get involved. You know, I'm going to
Mhm.
be at practice. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to show you everything that I've been lucky enough to learn, and I'm still learning myself
Mm-hmm.
from people better than I'll ever be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that can only benefit you guys as people, but as coaches. But a lot of it is, honestly, 80% of coaching is planning and preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just by showing details on that,
Mm-hmm.
your whole session, you'll get your objectives out no problem for every individual in that session.
Yeah.
Irrespective of if you've got a kid that is more developed or less developed at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we get confused with development, you know, a lot in this country especially, and we need to kind of revamp and relook at how we view that. And that's a wider change, but that's something that I'm incredibly passionate about and hopeful to implement here going forward. But yeah, in terms of not to get off track too much, but in terms of answering your question, it's leading by example, by getting out on the grass and, all right, guys, I'll run you through a session, and this is, I want you to bring out the notebook and pen, and anything good or bad or anything, just write down what you've learned, how you would do it, what's different, why you don't like something that I did, how can you make it better? Because again, there's no such thing as a perfect session, there's no such thing as a perfect coach.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I know on social media it seems a bit silly to say because everyone is on there for perfection.
Right.
It doesn't exist. It just doesn't.
Right.
I've not done a session where I've stuck to it verbatim ever. Yeah. I've always had to adapt in some way, which is fine because I planned for that.
Yeah.
However, in terms of the actual design of the session, I've had to adapt in session. I've had to readjust here. Just last week I was covering an older age group, and the younger ones asked me if they could join in for practice, and I was never going to say no. So, 2014 age group and 2016s wanted to jump in because it looked like fun. Brilliant, let's go.
Yeah.
So again, but how do you do that on the fly?
Right.
Preparation and planning. My activities are done so that it's a seamless transition.
Yeah.
So you won't notice a 2-year age gap. And that's all. Like I said, in terms of filtering it down, that's what I try and do every day. Is try and impart that knowledge, but also show you the detail on why.
And did you have any coaches throughout your career that lead by example, or is it something that maybe you learned because they didn't do it to you? Did you have any coaches that you kind of took a little bit of their leadership and applies to you today?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. One of my former youth coaches is a guy called Andy Pilkington-Pilks, and he actually gave me my first breaking coaching. I was 13 and he owned like a soccer franchise, soccer school franchise. And I was playing for him and he said, oh, do you want to go into coaching one day? Yeah, that sounds great. I want to be connected to the game. And he's like, oh, come down and see if you like it. And, the best advice he gave me when working with young kids is you be a young kid. I won't tell you because I can't repeat profanity on the podcast. But his advice was every kid loves, and then he said something, but it essentially means every kid loves somebody who acts like a kid and like the class clown almost.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
So if you're energetic, bouncing off the walls, chasing after them, well, you don't realise, but you're chasing after them and they're moving multi-directional now. And not only that, but they're doing it with their head up. So think about that at 6 years old. So now they're looking at you because they don't want you to kick them or run over them. Yeah. You're never going to, but in their mind, that's
definitely.
So now, because they're running away, they're actually running with the ball. So they're doing a soccer skill without even realising it. And now you're getting those repetitions in because I'm bringing energy and fun and enthusiasm to the practice, and I'm engaged. And I'm with them, I'm on their level. The possibilities of kids are endless, absolutely endless, and that's where, leading by example would be there for the youth kids. Phenomenal coach. He actually works on the UEFA B, C, and then grassroots education for the English FA. So he's employed by the Soccer Football Association. Awesome. So it tells you. So to have that resource at 13 years old. Unbelievable. I was also at Manchester United soccer schools, and I won like their prize for the week camp or whatever, and free tickets to go see the game. Brilliant. My dad loved that. But they said to my mum and dad at the time, like, he needs to go to his coaching licenses. He needs to, and I was kind of surprised because I didn't really think I was. But they said, no, he needs to go through his coaching licenses. So I demonstrated something, I'm not sure what, because it wasn't that good. But so all of it has been kind of learned in terms of seeing others doing it by example.
Right.
And then in terms of the management side of it, how they go about that. Again, I'm lucky enough to call friends now who are top level people in the profession, and to get that advice off those people who've been there, done it, and had all the experience in the world
Mm-hmm.
is invaluable in terms of the management side of it. But the coaching is very much the licensing. The UEFA platform is incredible. Highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
FAW, the Welsh FA coaching license route. It's recognised as one of the world's best. There's a reason why it's so
Yeah.
good. It's like a PhD in coaching, and management, and leadership.
Awesome.
You know, it's incredible. And so those learnings, you know, coupled with my experiences as obviously a player and having lucky enough to have coaches that were brilliant. And don't get me wrong, at younger age groups, I had coaches that weren't great.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
in the youth setting, that did just shout at you, that didn't offer any kind of technical, tactical, social, psychological advice whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, and just yelled at you for everything. And then if you didn't do it, they pull you off. But I always had my dad as well, and you know, this is where I go back to the support system and my parents being an ally, not an enemy, is because my dad would always tell me, like, well, you know, I'd miss a shot, and he'd say, well, okay, but at least you're there to miss it.
Yeah.
He said, I'm more worried if you're not there, because if you're not there, and just that advice, it doesn't seem like a lot, but now going through my licensing, I look back on the advice that I got from my dad, and it just
It's huge.
incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And it's not like, it's not this complex, you know, really well-spoken, articulated way.
Yeah.
It's something as simple as, well, hey, at least you put yourself in the position, in the firing line to take the shot, so it has the same chance of going in as it does missing. Actually, you have less of a chance of scoring.
Yeah.
And you know, you do your research now, and there's psychological books on that about overcoming resilience.
Yeah.
You know, so what my dad gave me there was, I was succumbing to pressure, and he gave me not only survival with a little bit of impairment of maybe I get myself in the position, but maybe I don't take the shot. No, he gave me the sense of thriving, like, oh, listen, it doesn't matter because I'm here, bang,
Yeah.
whatever happens, happens. And just when we talk about mindset, that's a different level of advice.
Yeah.
You know, and so I was very fortunate enough for my dad. I was very fortunate enough in the coaching environments for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, as you get older and you go through your journey as a coach, you know, you work for different head coaches. You know, I've been a head coach, assistant coach. I've worked at every single level. You know, I've been a technical director. I've been a coach. I've been a, you know, volunteer, whatever it is, at all levels across the game. And so, and that's just a coaching aspect of it, never a playing. And so, you learn different tools there as well. Oh, that worked. I like that. I'm going to steal that because coaches are the best thieves.
Yeah.
You know, no one's reinventing the wheel here. So, you know, you've just got to be authentic, and it's got to be true to you. So, like, when we're doing, you know, sessions and things like that, like, you can't copy one of my sessions. You can copy it down theoretically, but you can't deliver it how I would deliver it. And that's what I love about coaching is that it's unique, it's authentic.
Yeah.
You can't fake it, and I love that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel too many people try and fake it, but that's a whole other podcast conversation, right?
Definitely.
But no, the support system from the parents, from the coaches, and it's like an ecosystem, right? Like your friends, you know, everything. It's that. For my opinion, the support network is the most important. And when in that ecosystem of coach, you know, parent, friends, teachers, whoever is in that child's life at that moment in time, like, you've all got to be aligned on the same page. You know, and so so seeing that live and watching people lead by example on that has obviously been invaluable.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a lot of insights for me. I don't want to keep you for too long, so my last question for you is a question that we always ask our guest speaker, is how you define success in your life. If you, I don't know if you have it on top of your head, but so how you define success?
I think defining success, I would say happiness. I think, are you happy? If you're happy, then you're successful. Because you know, if you're in a bad mental state, if you're not happy in doing what you're doing, then you're not going to be able to achieve your best. So you're never going to be able to achieve success because you can't give something that you don't believe in.
Right.
You know, so you got to find what makes you happy and go after it, and don't say no, because no is just the beginning of the conversation.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much.
Uh,
I really appreciate that, and I think people that are listening, they have a lot to learn from that, just as an athlete, but also as a coach in any level. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks. Thanks so
no
much.
problem. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for having me on.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute blast, and
Yeah.
hopefully help to the people. That's what it's all about. Right?
Definitely will.